Mike Jones, can you hear me? Mr. Mike Jones,
Yes, I can hear you.
are you sitting in for somebody today?
I'm sitting in for Joe Malone.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the Standard Specifications and Detail Committee meeting. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please remember when you're speaking to turn on your microphone so everybody can hear you. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. If you could turn your camera on, that's also helpful, but at least state your name, please. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under the MAG's jurisdiction. If you're a member of the public would like to make a comment in today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can help with that. If you're parked in the garage, make sure you validate, do your stamp before you leave, so you don't have to pay for parking. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff. They can help you with that. Also, MAG included hearing assisted devices for the hearing impaired, so those are available now. All right, we'll move into agenda item number 2. We'll call the audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under the MAG jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items or items on the agenda for discussion, not for action. 15 minutes are provided for the call of the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. I have not received any requests to speak for the call of the audience. MAG also provides an opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting are shared with the committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Gordon, have you received any written comments?
We did not receive any online written comments.
Thank you. Move into agenda item number 3. This is the approval of January 8th, 2025 meeting minutes. Gordon will pull those up. Refresh your memory if you have any comments or questions regarding the or notes you want to make regarding the meeting minutes. Now's the time to let us know. I haven't received any public comment on the meeting minutes. Gordon, did we receive anything online?
No.
Perfect. I'm not hearing any comments on the meeting minutes or any corrections that need to be made. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
This is Warren. I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Warren. Can we get a second motion on agenda item number 3, please?
This is Roy. I second.
Roy, thank you. With that, we can move into a roll call vote.
Thank you. Let's start with ADOT.
Yes.
Avondale. Avondale's not present. Well, excuse me, Buckeye.
Good afternoon. This is Josh Ford. Yes.
Thank you. Chandler.
Yes.
El Mirage.
Yes.
Lawrence. Lawrence. Gilbert.
Yes.
Glendale.
Yes.
Goodyear.
Yes.
Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Peoria, Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale,
Yes.
Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe,
Yes.
Youngtown. Youngtown's not present.
Paulson.
Oh, sorry. Tolleson,
Yes.
all right. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Gordon. All right, we'll move into agenda item number 4. This is cases carried forward from 2024. The first case is 24-12. This is revisions to section 626 for the corrosion protective coating of sanitary sewer manholes and access structures. This one in particular, unfortunately, Phoenix wasn't able to make the meeting, the working group meeting to discuss this. So Jim Badowich and myself had conversations with the Phoenix staff and went over all the Glendale comments. They're going through those comments right now. They're very small comments. Matthew, do you want to give an update on where you're at with the comments?
Yeah, hello, Mr. Yeah, we're still just revising all those that we had spoke about last week. So I haven't heard anything back from Pat, but hopefully we should get a clean version here in the next couple of weeks or so. But I did see Chandler, City of Chandler did send some of their comments through today. So I forwarded those over to Pat to get those revised as well.
Great. That was my next comment, as I saw Warren sent some stuff from their team. Wanted to make sure you got that. Sounds like you did. This one in particular, I think at this point, Matthew, it seems like you're just polishing it up. It's pretty close to going. I think if we can get this in front of the committee this month, the sooner the better, obviously. We can open it up for discussion at the next meeting. We'll have the working group to discuss it at, and then we'll open it up for discussion at the next meeting. I think we could potentially put it as action, but definitely in April, I think it could be up for action.
Yes, I agree with you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any questions or comments anybody wants to make on the case 24-12 while we're on this agenda item? All right, hearing none, we're going to move to agenda item number 5. This is case 24-13, proposed revisions to section 620. This is cast in place concrete pipe. We need to make a correction on the agenda. Gordon. This is to revise section 620.1. It's brought to us by Warren. He's sponsoring this case with Chandler. Warren, do you want to provide any updates on this case?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I had submitted, not for the packet, but Gordon should have an update for the additional comments that we had, or the revisions, where basically just to clear up any potential confusion between the cast in place concrete pipe and cured in place pipe. So a few minor changes to section 101 abbreviations, section 618 storm drain construction, and then of course the current case 620, where it's just updating those abbreviations that are used there. So that's the addition today. The other update is that Blue Corps has set up a meeting for February 13th, I believe, with their geotech to kind of readdress the ongoing discussions about what to do with the expansive soils. So we get that paragraph polished up. Hopefully we'll have that ready, and then we can talk a little more about it at the next water and sewer working group. So that's all I have to report on for today.
Great. Thank you, Warren. Does anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding this case? All right, we'll move into agenda item number 6, new cases for 2025. We have some miscellaneous corrections. We do have a new miscellaneous correction this would be for detail 404-1. It's not changing. That should be 404-3, I believe. Is that correct, Warren? 404-3? Yeah, my agenda says 1, but okay. I didn't catch that earlier when I reviewed the agenda. So we're not proposing to change this detail in any way, just add clarification that the of note 2 there for the reinforcement required to support the upper water and sewer main encasement, which it's clearly drawn on the top section. We just wanted to add that extra note in there. There seems to be some confusion in the field regarding whether or not the bottom is required to have that reinforcement. Does anybody have any questions on the miscellaneous corrections? All right. Move into agenda item number 7. This is outside of right-of-way. Case is carried forward from 2024. The first one we have is the 24-C for the CMP underground storage, detention, and retention tanks. This one's brought to us by City of Phoenix, and Jose Rodriguez is sponsoring it. Jose, do you have any updates you want to provide?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This case, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the actual working group for the idle right away, but it was briefly discussed then. We did have a follow-up meeting last week between Margaret Conte, Keith Kesty with the City of Phoenix, and myself to talk in detail about some of the comments we received at the last technical committee meeting, and in particular in relations to the specifications on the gap grader or open graded cross rock requirements. We try to clarify and address some of the earlier concerns about the maximum aggregate size and try to make a reference to a more detailed standards. We included some of the red lines from that discussion. So in essence, in reviewing AASHTO or ASTM D448 table, the normal aggregate gradation table that most industries require, there's several aggregate sizes designations that are called out that can meet the requirement for the envelope backfill. So it's not as open as it was before. And we changed the description from being a cap graded to an open graded because that is more in line with what the gradations that are shown in that table. So there's no confusion there. Then there was also a discussion about whether or not the filter fabric was needed around the backfill envelope when aggregate base material will be used for backfill. As we discussed it, we didn't see the need for a filter fabric when you are using a granular dense graded material. It's really only when you're using an open grader or a gap grader to prevent the migration of fines from the existing edge of the excavation into your backfill envelope. But yeah, that is required to be all around the cross rock material.
ABC has the tighter matrix, so you don't have
Yes.
to worry about that infiltration or migration.
And if you think about it, that's what we normally do. We do not put filter fabric when we're using AB4 backfill. And I don't think that we've seen any failures related to that.
I have not.
And then there's also, I know that the glorious topic related to rejected chips always comes up. Under the specification, there is some language that gives the, that allows sort of that material with some kind of a specification, particularly making sure that that 3/8 of an inch minus material has at least 30% passing the number 16C. Jeff, you may know better than anybody else are here. Some of that, I did have a conversation with Greg, but he's not a a rock producer of that material. I need to touch base with somebody to see if there's a better way to describe that material, the rejected chips, but so far. Yeah, instead of rejected chips, yes.
Each producer probably has their own designation for it, depending on, because it's not a standard kind of material, you know? We, it probably is better if you're interested in a particular performance out of it, and the gradation is integral to that performance, to have something in place rather than worrying about a description, actually have some sort of minimum, maximum gradational requirements there, and then who cares what it's called?
Okay.
You know, if it meets that
I would
requirement,
agree.
like you mentioned, you know, 30% passing number 16, or, you know, something along those lines, if you don't want those additional fines in there.
And
But then you have a way to look at it and go, will this, whatever you call it, will this material meet the requirement or won't meet the requirement?
so in essence, right now, the way between the detail and the specification work together, you can use any of the size aggregate designations, your regular standard aggregate designations from, I think we discussed from number 4 through number 8, and all the combinations in between that table, right?
Yeah.
Plus the addition of this rejected chip materials. We just don't want something that has fines that ultimately you would need to compact, right? This is really the one alternative option we're trying to describe that appears to be a very industry practice, but it's not very well defined yet. So
Most of the time, these materials are crushed. They are a result of the crushing process, right? And you're screening those out of to make the other sizes you just talked about. So they are finer than a number 8 grading, a standard 3/8 kind of number 8 grading. But most of the time, they are crushed materials. They're not sand fines, you know, they're not natural materials there. So compaction is not an issue because they're going to interlock. They're not going to be like a granular fill that you're going to have to put some sort of effort in.
correct, and in
And so-
both this.
But off the top of my head, I believe our materials, I don't think that number 30, you know, maximum 30% past the number 16 would be an issue, I don't think our materials have that level of fines in it, because it's not sand, it's just what's left over from the
Yes, from the screening.
crushing
Yeah.
and screening operates.
So,
It's those chips that are,
yeah, and
left
we do use the language that it has to be a cross rock on
Yeah.
everything, because that is, we don't
Yeah.
want marble.
agreed.
So it depends on where it's scalped and what you're scalping it at, right?
Mhm.
Whatever you're scalping, sending over. But is it a washed product also or no?
Yeah,
It is washed.
yeah.
But
It-
we're not that concerned about the.
No, but
Yeah.
if you put a 200 sieve requirement in there, or even, you know, a 100 sieve requirement, so that you can avoid the granular, the silts, the clays, and maybe break it on the 10, I don't know, wherever it would make sense, so that you can avoid having those smaller particles in there. Does that make sense?
I know where you're getting. I just don't think that right now, as it's being delivered, it's not being washed, and introducing a 200 sieve requirement will probably end up triggering that.
One of the things you could do, though, is, you know, I hate to do it that way, but upon approval of the engineer, require a gradation of the material that you're proposing to use, since we can't call it a certain gradation classification, like a number 8 or a number 4, a number 57 or whatever.
Maybe that's.
And then at least the
answer.
engineer can see, this is what you're proposing to use. Does it have those materials in it or not?
Okay. We want to make it so that it's a little bit more executable, right? And maybe that's where we define, if you're using the normal AASHTO M43 table requirements, you can follow those if you want to use something like a rejected chip to meet a gradation, but and then the only thing is going to be, who is going to be the party reviewing it? I guess the engineer on site.
Yeah,
And-
yeah. The geotech engineer or the
We
design.
do that
engineer.
on, we do that on a routine basis, provide that kind of information, because it isn't something that is in a standard that you can look at and see. I don't believe I've ever had anybody reject. I guess I'm speaking for myself on our materials. That wouldn't necessarily be for everybody. But I think that's the way to keep from having too many fines in there that could possibly cause an issue with compaction.
So it sounds like you have a little more work to do in the working group on that designation, right? For the reject
So
chips.
we really wanted to present it to the committee to see if anybody else had any other comments with that, right? Because we, at this case been going on for a while, we try to really narrow it down to what we're at. I think we can have another discussion or some email conversations with the working group about maybe fine tuning this, a way to make this rejected chips material more palatable and more acceptable. But we'd like to see if there's any other input or feedback or objections on it. We did reduce the maximum aggregate size from 3 inches to 1.5 inches, because that is, I think we were looking at the number 4 CF exactly.
Yeah, number 4 grading is right.
So,
That's a big difference.
yes.
This is Peter. I would tend to agree that we may want to put something in the specification component saying that the proposed gradation, the material proposed gradation be submitted for review. And it doesn't necessarily approval, but just review. So whoever's getting the material knows what they're getting, whatever the material is going to be.
Yeah, and it's a good catch-all for any of those nuances.
Yeah, I like that. Good idea.
Jim, thanks for joining us.
Say that. Sorry, this is Roy. Just had a question on the detail that we got up on the screen there. Since we've reduced the aggregate size, does that also affect the note that's on the pointing to the lower left corner of the section there, where it says fine graded excavation foundation, no aggregate greater than 3 inches?
Oh, good catch. Sorry, I missed that.
Actually, scroll up just a little bit. It's right almost in the center of the screen there.
Yeah, on the top left.
Up a little bit.
There's
Keep going up.
narrow, and it's on both on the top and the bottom detail.
Just
No.
above the title on the bottom of the detail. Right there, down with your cursor, right there to the right and up. There you go, to the left a little bit.
That's the note.
Yep.
Yep, and then there's the same note for the sketch above it.
Correct. Yeah, it's on both the top and the bottom.
Yeah, good catch, Roy.
And this is Warren, just a question on the callouts for the foundation and the bedding. It's just trying to remember, is that matching our 601 definition? Because the foundation is below the bedding, correct? As labeled. And then what type of, then the bedding would be right below the pipe on top of the foundation, correct?
Correct. Foundation is pretty much the bottom of your excavation, right? But yeah, it follows the same outline as 601.
And then, but what kind of bedding are we using below the pipe? What kind of material? Is it just laying, it's just laying on the foundation?
No, so you still need a bedding material, right?
Okay.
It is based on the 3 options that we have. Going back to what we've been discussing in this case is, if you wanted to perform the installation using dense graded materials, it would be some similar to your AV material. If you're using the crossrock, you have to set up a bedding that's going to conform to the bottom of the pipe, right?
Okay.
Material is defined in the table.
That makes sense. I didn't see it all. I hadn't studied that one. I was just making sure where we call out over on the left, it says foundation, fine graded excavation foundation, number 3. Is that is, maybe I'm just confused, but
No, it should all follow the same requirements. So I can clean up.
okay.
No,
Thank you.
The trench section's also detailed and called out in 200-2, I believe, as well.
Anybody else have any comments or questions or notes that they want to point out on this specific case?
Hello, this is Josh Ford, City of Buckeye. Couple of comments. So looking at the trench installation detail on the top, there's calls for final backfill and then landscape or pavement, see install note 2. I'm guessing the C install note 2 would probably be more appropriate to associate with the final backfill call out, since note 2 is saying refer to geotechnical report, civil and landscape plans for final backfill. And then question, do we clearly show somewhere how far above the pipe that we take that initial backfill? I'm seeing a note under installation note 1 that seems to talk about that, but in a detail with section views like this, I would almost expect to see something above the pipe indicating kind of the limits or the height of how far up you take that initial backfill.
Like for instance, 1 foot above top of pipe as an example. Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Yeah, or 1 foot minimum, or somehow.
We can add it. That was the reason I guess we didn't do it initially, because that's all defined in 601. But we can certainly add it in the detail for, I guess, more redundancy than anything, Josh. Or follow the requirements of 601, just in case somebody comes up with something different.
Yeah, I think what Josh is asking for is a little bit of clarification.
Okay.
And then,
Well, and then with installation note 1, when we're saying for pipes greater than 96 inches, increase the initial backfill to D/8 for total compacted height of cover.
So
What are we meaning by that part of the installation note 1?
So there's a couple of different things going on towards the top of the detail, right into the final backfill, and also the landscape and pavement requirements, because final backfill can potentially depend if this installation is going to be outside of a parking lot area, or if it's going to be in an area that is not subject to traffic. That's why it was kind of, it's identifying what the final backfill limits are. But then as you may have different conditions particular to a project, especially towards the top. If you're going to be in a landscape area, you may not need all the compaction requirement that you will if you're going to be underneath pavement. So that's where we can't go into the point of actually specifying those limits. What note 1 was really intended for is just to talk about minimum cover, right? The minimum cover installation for this product.
Okay, as defined by from the top of pipe to the finished grade surface.
I see your point. Yeah, that note 1 can clarify that it should be to the finished surface. So or I can clarify that.
It just isn't clear to me when we're talking about increasing initial backfill to D/8, where we're saying that D/8 dimension would be as it relates to the initial backfill limits.
I follow now. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, thank you, Josh. Appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, good comment.
Anybody else have any additional comments for this case? Jose, the case sponsor, Jose Rodriguez, will look into those and make those corrections, probably discuss it with the subcommittee and make.
Yeah, probably what we'd like to target is to hopefully by the next meeting have a cleaned up version with all the comments and move for information and action in the next month.
You want to go for possible action? next
Possible
month?
action, yeah.
Okay, we'll put it on the agenda for possible action. All right, we'll move into agenda item number 8. This is outside of the right of way 24-D. This is for new detail 524 and section 665 infiltration trenches. Peter, you're heading this one up, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The draft that you have is the cleaned up versions. They're the the typo corrected in infiltration. I think that was the only change in the text component of the case. And then the detail itself is now in a CAD version. It incorporates the red line markups from last time, which were primarily the Note 8 added to it. I said they're now just cleaned up as a CAD version, looking a bit more final. No other comments have been received, so we're at that point of waiting for additional comments to move forward with the case.
Do any of the committee members have any comments on this case? Peter, do you think we could put this one up for possible action then, since we're not getting any more comments on it for the next meeting?
I would like to see us move that way. That would be nice.
We'll put this for discussion and possible action for March's meeting, so it's on there.
So this is this is Roy. The only thing is I know maybe it doesn't show up on some screens is that that little black spot. I don't know what.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I forgot about that.
My eyes just went right to it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, option A. I completely forgot to get rid of that thing. I will clean that out of there before our next working group meeting and get that taken care of. That'll be the only change.
That was a good test, Peter, just to see if we're watching. Good job.
Yeah, it's again, I don't remember much anymore, so I'm glad for all the help.
That's right. Thanks for making sure I was awake.
Me and my lack of CAD skills.
Well, they're better than mine based on what I see. All right, anything else on this case before we move on? All right, hearing none, we're going to move into agenda item number 9. This is the working group reports. We'll start off with water and sewer working group. We'll get a report and the plans for upcoming meetings. Jim Badowich.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So we met on January 21st. It was a combination. It was in person and virtual, so I was there. We had a few people turn up, so we went over some of the current cases. We had some discussion on the corrosion protection coating of sanitary sewer manholes. So I think we've talked that one quite a bit. So thanks for that other auxiliary meeting we had, Gene, on that. So
yeah, you're welcome.
It was a good discussion. So and then we talked about again revisions to cast in place concrete pipe for underground stormwater detention. So that's case 2413. So we had a pretty good discussion on that. One thing we talked about is the soil is rocky, but over excavation. So again, it's you can be used in a lot of situations, but there might be instances where it's not feasible to use it. So I don't know how you put that in a construction spec, guys, but the design engineers, you got to get into geotechnical stuff, and so you can make an informed decision on something like this. So, and then we had just some miscellaneous corrections. Gene, you brought up an item about concrete encasement, putting rebar in it.
Clarification of the note.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that may be more of a detail than a miscellaneous item. So, just in the past, we see stuff like that. We kind of qualifies for a new case. So, and then we kind of discussed about some of the stuff we're going to be working on this year. One of the things I'm going to bring is requiring cast in place manhole bases to be formed up. And we had a little bit of discussion on clarification of sewer testing, video testing, and the mandrel discussion. So we do have a couple, outside consultants that we were gonna reach out to that are working with ASTM standards. So we'll try to mirror what they do. But we just got to get we need, the MAG needs more information on it, and we need to make a decision if we're going to go with the size, because there's two different sizes that are referenced. So one's a kind of a mean, and then I forget what the other one's.
Bridge versus mean.
Yeah. So there's some confusion on that. I think only one or two agencies still use a more stricter one. We've been using the average, and I really haven't had a problem with it. So that's after years of going back and re-videoing it. We haven't had any failures. So I'm not sure the more stringent one is really necessary. But we just got to make a decision and agree on it. I think one standard should work for MAG. The other one coming up this year, and thanks again to Warren for taking this on, carrying with it, is the PEX as an alternate material for water services in the right of way. So that you're going to see that as a case here shortly. And the other thing we want to talk about is maybe cleaning up details 301-1 and 303-2. Just clarifying some of the terms, especially the LR and the LRN. There seems to be always confusion on that, so I want to try to clean that up. Because some design engineers will do the work and call out the actual distances on the plans for restraint, but sometimes they don't, and then they kind of leave it up to the contractor, and then they get with the inspector, and everybody's scratching their head. So we in those cases, we need to make this detail, I think, a little easier to understand.
Yeah, Jim, I'll provide more information when we get into agenda item number 11 on that.
Okay, great. And we're gonna probably have another case for a concrete precast reinforced concrete box culvert. It'll be similar to ADOT. Just having a detail for that. And it needs to be for the precast box sections.
Sounds like this working group has the work cut out for them, Jim.
Yeah, we've got some good people, so we just need a lot of work. So hopefully we'll get it done. And then fiberglass pipe is another option for a new section for 749. A lot of people have been using this spec already for various sewer and storm drain. So we've got Arvid has agreed to sponsor that case. So I don't know if we're going to see anything on manhole covers. There's been some interest. Maybe on the frames, you might see the frames, but I think the covers are going to stand as is for now. Kind of like, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. But I understand the industry, has, things that can, for modernization and that type of thing. So we want to look into it, but it may not amount to anything. We'll see. And then the other last one, should be easy one, is for locating purposes, putting meter box magnets on some of these lids, because everybody's getting away from the all metal lids, so they're going to the polymer concrete boxes like we are in Avondale, and sometimes they get buried and they're harder to find. So these box magnets will go in the lid, and they're relatively cheap, I understand, and shouldn't be a big thing. So I think we're going to just modify the detail on that as an option. The agency wants to do that. So and that was about it. So yeah, we got lots to do. Our next meeting will be on February 18th at 1:30, and I plan to do that as a hybrid meeting again. So look forward to input on it and getting some of these cases, getting them born into getting numbers. So thanks, Gene.
February 18th at 1:30 for the Water and Sewer Working Group. Thank you, Jim, for that update. We'll move into the Asphalt Materials and Concrete Working Group. Jeff, you want to give us an update?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A write-up of the committee work is in your packets, but items A and B we discussed at our last Standards Committee meeting as potential cases for the future. One of them being ADOT moving from Arizona test methods to utilizing AASHTO test methods. So we've begun devising a method to our madness to try to figure out what they're doing, how they're doing it. And our aim is to try to mirror kind of what they're doing. We don't want to be ahead of them, but we don't want to be too far behind them either. So we've got to kind of take our lead from them a little bit. But in the meantime, we can identify what's in the MAG existing standards so we know how much of it do we have to do, what are they, and that kind of a thing. The fiber reinforcing thing, item B, it's another slow process that we're working on. We want to try to introduce some of those fibers into some of the details, and we're working with a couple of the fiber manufacturers to help us do the engineering that's involved there, do the calculations involved there to determine what would the details look like and what kind of fibers and what dosage rates and those kind of things, so that we could bring that real information back to the committee to look at. We had quite a discussion over section 719 and 326. The industry in general is having these discussions about trying to get back to having a centralized way of doing the mixed designs and approvals and so on. It seems like the valley is kind of spread. This isn't my area, so I'm kind of talking off the cuff here, but has kind of started doing ways differently between City of Phoenix and the east side and Maricopa County themselves, and then the west side cities are trying to do what City of Phoenix is doing, but making some modifications to that. We've kind of gotten away from the whole concept of what the MAG standards are supposed to be, kind of a unified way of how we're doing things. And I'm a concrete guy, not an asphalt guy, but I get it. Technologies are changing, things are changing. ADOT's changing their mind around what they're doing. The ASU consortium that's now been put together to try to bring experts on these things into the valley to look at what other people are doing in other areas. There was quite a good discussion about trying to figure out how do we get those things kind of back into a MAG standard kind of scenario, so that everybody is at least somewhat on the same wavelength on what they're doing. So we're going to continue to have those discussions in the working group and see what things we can potentially bring back to the committee. It's important that we got good buy-in from City of Phoenix staff who attend the working group meetings as wanting to be part of it. Some of our members are going to approach, East Mesa and see if they can be a part of it. We can try to put this together maybe as part of the ASU consortium. I don't know how it'll work out, but try to get the parties together and have these conversations. So we're, at least as we make changes, we're kind of going in the same direction if we can.
Yeah, everybody has their own. I'm EVAC, you have Phoenix, you have Glendale. At one point, we had all of our own. Now we go back right to MAG. We just point to MAG.
So that'll be interesting. That to be certainly, I would encourage any of your technical staffs that want to be involved in this, please be involved as part of the working group to have these discussions, because we get a lot of things done in there, and we have these discussions are very open, and it allows us to look at the different methods that are being used and so on, and try to determine a unified way to do some of these things if possible.
No, that's a good idea. I'll get Rob to attend that, but the consortium sounds really interesting with the ASU. So
I would encourage you guys to look at the consortium. They definitely are looking for more involvement of agency staff and so on. The idea there is to try to bring the latest technologies, the latest information, performance criteria, those kinds of things into the valley without, having an axe to grind one way or the other, without having, it's just informational. It's just so people can get together and have those discussions together. And it's geared basically toward asphalt.
oh, that's good.
Hey, Jeff, this is Warren. Was that last year or the year before that they did the presentation to the committee?
I think it was last year. We could certainly arrange to do that again if you wanted to, Warren. That would not be hard to do.
I'm open to that if that would be a good refresher.
They are farther down the road now. They've actually put together they've already brought in a couple of experts over the last couple of months to have some presentations in the valley, and would be good for the agencies to be at least aware of what they're doing. I'll get with Greg and see if we can do something like that again. I think it would be a good idea.
Yeah, this would be a great opportunity.
So are they looking at everything with the asphalt, oil, the PG ratings? Are they kind of stripping it down and kind of rebuilding everything, or are they open to seeing all the issues we have and looking at that?
I think, again, I'm not involved in it because I'm not an asphalt guy, but it's my understanding you're absolutely correct. They're trying to look at everything, particularly problems that are occurring, and how do we solve those problems?
Yeah, Jim, they are looking at they're looking at large cracks, wide crack issues that we're having, different binders, different mix design implementations that is coming up, balanced mix design, all that.
Might want to be
a lot of work, great work.
Might want to be part of the working group, Jim, if you have somebody, or you said you would probably put
Rob has
Rob
been
over
involved in
there.
it.
Okay, good.
Rob has been part of the working group for quite a while, and he was at the last meeting. I think you heard most of this conversation. He joined us a little late. No, I'm not trying to say anything against Rob, but I think he was there for most of this conversation, Jim. So it will be something he's probably aware of.
Yeah, no, he loves this stuff. He's our local.
Yes, he
He's our local geologist here, geography.
Does that conclude your report?
The only other thing is the last item on there, and it's something that some of our industry suppliers keep bringing up along the same lines is, gosh, is there a way we could have a list somewhere hosted by MAG or somebody else that has the approved mix designs by agency or whatever, so that contractors and suppliers know? And it's kind of like, we have this discussion off and on, but there's really no real way for us to get our arms around that, because all these things require approvals, and somebody has to be making these approvals in it now.
And constant maintenance.
And
because it
and that's
changes.
really the key, is constant maintenance, right? So, it's possible that we could, there could be a website where the agencies could put their information on, but housing it on the MAG website, or now you have someone who has no offense, Gordon, has no input into it or ability to make anything, or just putting information in there. Is it really helpful? So we kind of thought that, well, maybe as part of this bigger discussion about mix designs in the first place and approvals and so on, that could be rolled into that. And maybe there is a way for us to do it at some point in time, kind of thing. But it's not an easy thing to do.
Oh.
It sounds great, but it's not an easy thing to accomplish. However, if we all use the same set of mix designs that we're in, according to the MAG specifications, it would make it a lot easier. Sorry to say it.
Yeah, we get a lot of contractors requesting that from us, and we kind of have an unofficial list here at Avondale. And I wouldn't mind putting it on another website just to get it out there. But you're right, it takes maintenance, because every year, or even more frequently, if these plants change the mix designs, you got to reevaluate them and put them on there.
Well, and as you see, as different groups in the valley are diverging from using different types of mix design processes and different materials and so on, it makes it more confusing for suppliers and for contractors to know, what do I use where? What can I use where? Because City of Phoenix has their own way of designing things, and EVAC has their own way, and Maricopa County has their own way, and MAG has a whole different way that a lot of other people are using. So we're all back to who's on first, what's on second. I don't know. Third base. So
And then your next meeting is scheduled
the
for
20th, February 20th, at the ARPA offices. And it is a hybrid meeting. So, if you have people who want to be involved in that meeting, get a hold of me, get a hold of Gordon. We can make sure that they get an invitation, the Zoom invitation, to be in that meeting.
Hey, this is Bashir with the City of Tempe. To that effect, is there any way you can send the meeting invite to everybody on the committee so we can forward it to people who might want to attend?
I'll figure that out. Bashir, I'll figure that out.
All right, thanks.
and that's generally Teams, and that's 10 o'clock or noon?
No, it's at noon.
Okay,
Yeah, it's at
12
noon.
o'clock,
And
February
if you
20th.
show up in person, there's food to eat. If you don't show up in person, you're on your own.
We're gonna have
So-
a meeting during lunchtime. You need to.
Hey,
provide lunch.
we'll bribe you to be there. That's all right.
All right. Thank you for that, Jeff. I appreciate it. We'll move into the outside of right-of-way working group. Peter, you have a updated report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. You see the one on the screen there. It's in the packages. Again, very well attended virtual meeting. We got quite a bit of input this time. We've talked about the carry forward cases. So I'm not going to go back into those. I think those have been updated so let's talk a little bit about the new cases. The miscellaneous corrections case 25-1 it started a new discussion on, well, should we look at the entire section of 795.9 decomposed granite and look at updating that. So there was quite a bit of discussion on that. And I think what we're going to be doing is preparing a new case to bring forward to the committee for an update on that. Basically, those materials have not been changed in a long time. I think the miscellaneous cases is in and of itself fine, but we started looking at, well, is this a standard material? Have those materials changed? The sources were identified as being changed. So what we've done is not have an official, but we've had sort of a semi-official group to start looking at what are the materials that are being produced right now in the valley. So we have a balance of what is there and what are we speccing out. The second item that got brought up from City of Glendale, Kelly, was that she was looking at specifying a slope stabilization decomposed granite, large enough size material that would help reduce erosion on slopes. And so we said, yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity. So again, several members of the working group volunteered to start looking up some information, contacting other people, and seeing if we can look at providing maybe a new material that would meet City of Glendale's requirements and probably a lot of other cities for slope stabilization. One of the items that was talked about was contacting ADOT. Apparently, ADOT does have a specification, but it is based on some research that was done several years ago by Leroy Brady, and potentially looking at, has that been updated or could we utilize any of that? So we're going through the research process on looking at multiple materials and potentially upgrading the decomposed granite specification currently in MAG. We went through, as we had discussed in our prior meeting, the supplemental specification document itself. The draft is shown to the committee, the working group, I'm sorry, and notified that this was on the process. So we just had the same discussion we had at last meeting, but we presented that to the working group. Let me talk about the potential new cases. We are moving forward with the stormwater harvesting case. Tim and Wayner and Roy are working on that with the other cases we've had come forward with the infiltration trench case. All that now can be blended into how do we make the pieces of the orchestra now work together in a single detail. Other ones would be the detention tanks. Now we're moving forward now that we've got the CMP type tanks. We're going to start moving forward into the cast in place. That's Blue Corps' work. And also there's now motivation to look at the other materials, the plastic type materials, the concrete materials and such, and look at different options. So anticipate sometime this year, we're probably going to be submitting cases that are going to be parallel to the CMP, but now the other types of materials, and they would just be details moving on and adding to the specification. So we get one done, we can start doing the rest of those. The other case we did talk about was one I brought up. Noticed when we did the spillway detail, there are details in the current MAG standard and in the outside right-of-way in particular, and that deal with the scuppers, the spillways, and the curb cuts. They're cross-referencing, that we never got that cross-referencing quite straightened out when we did the spillway case this last year. So I've gone through and we're working on markups to the existing MAG standards to reference those properly, so we have everything cross-referenced appropriately between those. It's not quite it's definitely not a a bloopers case. It's really making sure that everything talks to each other the right way. If we go from the curb cut to the spillway to the sedimentation basin, so on like that. So that case is being worked on. I'm pretty sure we're going to have that one fairly quickly up as a regular case coming forward in the next meeting or two. And scroll down. I'm trying to remember what else we talked about. Oh yeah, we talked about the other underground storage cases. We talked about the decomposed granite and also on the decomposed granite, looking at the polymer specifications on equestrian trails. That may not be a good material. The decomposed granite with the polymers apparently degrade fairly quickly on equestrian trails, so there may be another alternative or option for that. And that is another one thrown in the decomposed granite to be looked at. So it kind of opened up a whole broad area of upgrading that whole concept of decomposed granite, how we use it, different applications, materials, and stabilizers. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 20th. Also, it'll be a virtual meeting, MS Teams, at 11 a.m. I'm open to any questions.
Sounds like you have a good group in your working group to work with. You got a nice participation from everyone. I know we sent you one of our finest with Kelly when it comes to stormwater management and slope stabilization. That's right up her alley. So
yes,
she'll definitely be a bulldog when it comes to that stuff.
Oh, we appreciated her input and comments. It was just what we were looking for. If we're going to upgrade a specification, let's look at all the applications.
Peter, it looks like we have a question.
Here, this is Mike Blaker from ADOT. I know you mentioned, as a resource here, Leroy is a valuable resource. And if and when you need to reach out and coordinate that, please let me know and I can help facilitate, but feel free to reach out to him too.
If you could, through this or through Mag, just send us the contact information, his email, whatever, so we can go and loop him into this so we can get him pulled on in. It'd be great.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for offering that up, Michael. All right, we'll move into the ADA working group. This is a Teams plan meeting. Warren, is it you or Jose that's kind of heading up this group? It's Jose.
We're co-chairing it, right, Jose?
Co-chair. He's a great wingman, this Jose. Go ahead. You want to give us an update on this, Warren? Sure.
I'll have Gordon kind of help us with kind of the dates and all. I know he's done the legwork to get the emails out and kind of assemble the attendees, that at least send out the email for the meeting. So Gordon, you want to just give a quick briefing on that part, please?
Sure. Well, we had a few people volunteer from the committee, and then several of the committee members volunteered someone at their agency that they could join. So I got some emails that way. I know, Warren, you supplied a few people from industry that were able to help out, and I contacted a few people that participated in the past. So all told, we got about a dozen people who are interested in this first meeting, which is scheduled for also February 20th, I believe at 2:30, if I remember right. And it's also going to be a Teams meeting.
And thank you for setting up the teams. That will make it easier if folks have anything to share, since we're kind of limited on the Zoom option, right?
Right. And also I've got the list of people on a MAG mailing list, so we can add to that list and automatically plug them into any future meetings if we need to.
Okay. And while we're talking real quick, Jose, I hadn't had a chance to catch up with you in terms of when we discussed the latest PROAG. I don't know if you had a recent presentation, PowerPoint or something that you got for training.
I don't know if we have one, but I can follow up and see if we have something that summarizes some of the changes. I don't know, our ADA liaison was working on that. I think it was more to some of the stuff that our current practices here in Phoenix that we were gonna see the biggest impact on, but I can see if we got something more extensive.
Yeah, Great. I was just in case, I didn't want us to have to recreate the wheel if we already had something assembled like that, just to kind of talk about what's changed in the final PROAG, and not like we have to spend hours on it, just kind of go through the highlights of the biggest things, right?
Yeah, I'm anxious to see how all this evolves with the ADA working group and what you guys come back with to the committee. That's going to be February 20th at 2:30. Thank you. You have anything else, Warren?
Well, that's it for now. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it. We're going to move into agenda item number 10. This is publishing the supplement specifications for civil construction outside right-of-way document. That's the beautiful green document dated January 2025. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to go through this document and are comfortable with the layout and having this thing published. Is there any, I'm going to ask right out of the gate, is there any opposition to publishing this document? I'm not hearing any. Gordon, this is set up for action, correct?
Yes, we've got it on the agenda for possible approval of the document for publication and distribution.
Okay, so with that being said, I personally think this is ready to go. I've went through it. I'd like to see this thing published. And that's why I'm giving the committee members an opportunity to voice any concerns or opposition that they may have before I move into asking for a motion to approve. So any of the committee members have anything they want to share regarding this supplement specification?
Mr. Chairman, this is Dan Nissen with City of Peoria. Can you hear me?
Barely. You're a little echoey, but I think I can hear you. This is City of Peoria, you said?
Yeah, this is Dan.
Dan.
I apologize that you can't hear me very well, but I was wondering what is our public information process to notify people that this publication will be available on the MAG website and the purpose of it? How are we planning to get the word out?
It's a great question.
This is Gordon. The MAG has a mail list with about over 2,000 people who have signed up to receive notifications relating to specifications and details. So I would send it out to that group for sure. But I think it would also be handy, once it's posted online and we have that particular link, I can also, besides sending it out to that mail list, I can also send it to the committee, and then you could forward that on to people in your agency or other contractors or people who you think would want to use that. But yeah, any other ideas on how we can kind of get the word out on this document would be useful. If approved, I planned on posting it right underneath the current MAG specs and details document on that same page, so it would be easy to find that for people who are used to using the MAG specs.
Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Because I was thinking when we meet with Home Builders Association that I would mention it to them.
Yeah, it'll take a little bit to get the word out, but that was a great question. And I think it sounds like Gordon has a good handle on how to start that process, but thank you for that question. Any other questions from the committee members? All right, hearing none, I'm open for entertaining a motion to approve publishing the supplement specification.
I'll motion, Mr. Chairman.
Jim, thank you for that first motion. With that, I need a second motion. The case sponsors, anybody can motion?
I will second if you'll let me.
Absolutely, Peter.
Thank you.
Always in second. Thank you, Peter. With that, we can move into a roll call or into a vote.
Okay. Avondale,
Yes.
Sorry, I skipped ADOT. ADOT,
Yes.
Buckeye,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage,
Yes.
Lawrence. Lawrence not present. Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale,
Yes.
Goodyear. Goodyear, Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale,
Yes.
Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe,
Yes.
Tolleson,
Yes.
Youngtown.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you all the committee members that voted on this. Appreciate it. Gordon, approximately how long will it take, do you think, to get this onto the website, onto the MAG website?
I should have it up before the end of the week.
Great. Move quick around here. All right. We'll move into agenda item number 11. This is potential cases for 2025. There is the updating the spillway, the PECs, all the ones we discussed. There is a new one that I'm proposing. I'm going to bring as an actual case to the next meeting. That's going to be the details that Jim Badowich alluded to, which is the 303-1 and 303-2 for joint restraints, a ductile iron pipe. Really, the motivation here is not to reinvent the wheel, but is to verify the pipe lengths and the restraints to make sure that the numbers and the calculations and the assumptions, the calculations based on the assumptions still stand and are still somewhat conservative in a sense that we're not going to have problems further down the road. I don't know the last time those calculations were looked at or who even came up with them. So just quick background on that. I'm working with US Pipe currently, and then separate effort, I'm working with DIPRA, who does have a joint calculator, a very in-depth joint calculator on their website. They're both separately, individually reviewing these details to evaluate that joint distance. The other intent is to clarify LRN. Some of us know what LRN is, some of us don't. Some of us need to be retaught what LRN is. It's always a point of discussion whenever that detail comes up. So we'll be sure that the table leans on the conservative side of things. And then, of course, there will always be that note in the bottom of the detail, note 4, that basically says the joint restraints can be shortened with supporting calculations from the engineer. But really, I think this detail is important to have. We just need to revisit it and make any minor modifications. When my guys are out in the field and they don't want to, and we have to do a vertical realignment or whatever, maybe we don't have the luxury of going back to the engineer record for these calculations, and we can make a field decision and give a directive and do the proper restraints and have a good vertical realignment done. So that's the motivation on that. Any other potential cases for 2025 from the committee members?
Jim, I'm sorry, not Jim. Can I just ask a request on the DIPRA and US Pipe review of those on that detail? As you're going through that case, can we get some clarification added to the detail about instances where the restrained joint distances are overlapping each other and how to treat that? Because I think that's something that's been lacking. If you've got two individual instances where restrained joints are required, are they additive? Are they separate? Do they overlap and you don't have to add any extra? Like, there's no information in the details and specifications about that.
Okay.
And I think that's caused a lot of confusion in the design community and construction community. So while they're going through that and doing those calculations, can we have them touch on that and find a way to incorporate at least notes or something into the details that talks about what to do when you have multiple fixtures or, you know, fittings, tees, valves, whatever it is that require restraint joints, and how to treat those when those restraint joint lengths overlap each other.
Yeah, no, that
So-
makes perfect sense. I appreciate that input. It's not formally a case yet, but it will be a case at the next meeting.
All right, I'm just trying to shortcut it for you and help you get to the end faster. Thank you.
You, Ryan, and I will, being that you have a strong interest in this, I'll make sure that I keep you included in the correspondence.
Mr. Chairman, while you're at it, the other thing, I guess if you're talking about cases, if there is a bend within the restraint length, right?
If there's a what?
A bend. So if there's a
Yeah.
90 within the restraint length, should the restraint length carry it through the bend? Do you still need it if there's another connection in there? There's more pipe restraint holding that section.
Okay,
so.
what I'm gonna do, I'll take a note on that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some marks on paper, get it in front of the working group, and then we'll bring it to we'll share it with the entire committee to look at as well, and we'll start making comments off of that. I'm not in any rush to get anything through this year, so we have time with it, but we definitely need to look at it. Those comments that Jose and Ryan brought up, we definitely need to explore those as well. All right, so next you'll see that at the next, an actual case at the next meeting. If Gordon, if I can get a case number from you for that. Any other potential cases for 2025? All right, hearing none, we'll move into agenda item number 12. This is the MAG staff report. Gordon, do you have any report you want to provide?
Just very quickly, yesterday I sent out an email that had the mail list. So I know I already received comments from several members, but if you haven't yet looked at it, please review and send me any corrections to your contact information, and also any updates to the Public Works Directors list, which includes the Public Works Directors and also the city engineers that need to review the final specs and details at the end of the year. The only other thing I have is for the members that are here in person, if you haven't yet already picked up your copy of the MEG specs and details, there's a few copies in the box on the table there. You can grab one on the way out.
Thank you, Gordon. All right, we'll move into agenda item number 13. This is information and discussion based on general discussion. This is topics of interest relating to specifications, construction practices, or other technologies, any kind of construction technologies. Would anybody like to discuss? It's open for discussion for anybody. If they want to bring anything to the committee. All right. Hearing nothing, we'll move into agenda item number 14. This is requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests from committee members for future agenda items? Paul? No? Okay. Hearing none, we can move on to agenda item number 15. Comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from the committee members they'd like to share with the committee? All right, so our next standard specification and detail committee meeting is going to be held on the 5th of March. That's a Wednesday at 1:30, same time. With no further business, today's meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Look at you, Gene.
Are we doing, is it in the record of the shorted one?